Cars, planes, and even dogs are all newer ideas than smoking tobacco. Dayton University reported that tobacco use has been around since 6000 BC and shows no signs of slowing down now. From the boom of tobacco use in the 1950s to the European smoking epidemic, tobacco use has always been in society, and many people don't know how it stays so prominent. Maybe you have experience with tobacco use, but most people don't know how tobacco went from classical pipes to high-tech vaporizers that we see today. So today I plan to inform you of how tobacco use went from a simple cash crop to an epidemic that is preying, or allegedly preying, on today's youth. The earliest uses of tobacco were first recorded being used in 6000 BC by the Native Americans, and they would go on to introduce the modern world to the crop in 1492 when Christopher Columbus arrived in America. The gift of choice from the natives, of course, was dried tobacco leaves, and these dried leaves would soon reach Europe after sailors harbored it back home and talked of the effects that it had on them. They did not talk of the stress relief that we feel it does today, rather they talked of its healing properties. In 1492, modern medicine was far from ideal, and people opened their arms to the idea of tobacco being a medicinal wonder drug. For a century after Columbus brought tobacco to Europe, people would experiment with tobacco and find out what it could do to help them. After wrapping wounds and chewing the crop, they found it was best to be placed in a pipe, lit on fire, and smoked. Once tobacco became more of a smoking habit than anything else in Europe, people leaving for the newly discovered country of America in the 1700s brought along their tobacco and the addictions that came with. Their smoking device of choice at the time was a wood-carved smoking pipe, and it wouldn't be until 1826 that nicotine that's found in tobacco was considered a deadly poison by scientists. But by then, the addiction had set in, and it was nearly impossible for people to get rid of their addictions. It also didn't help that Philip Morris would soon invent the cigarette in 1849, and after the cigarette was introduced, Morris would become a millionaire, as reported by Forbes, as people began putting down their hand-carved pipes and began picking up packs of cigarettes. The cigarette would reign king until the 2010s, but in the 1950s in America, cigarettes were the new fad at the time, and would go on to kill hundreds of thousands in the process. The 50s were the Wild West of what cigarette producers could get away with, and filters wouldn't be put on cigarettes until 1954. Even then, filters contained asbestos, which would go on to be proven fatal. Camel cigarettes would also market cigarettes for women that would be as mild as May. Not only were the cigarettes themselves a very popular item among consumers, but it became a cultural sign of coolness. Countless ads from the 50s would tout that cigarettes were the best way to start a conversation. This would only encourage the use of cigarettes, and many people would begin linking cigarettes with social interactions at the time. With cigarettes reigning supreme from the 50s to the 2000s, the scientists collected health data of the effects of cigarettes over time. Because of health issues concerning cigarettes and tobacco in the 2000s, cigarette producers would begin facing repercussions and serious problems with their product. So they began to turn to replacement in vaporizers. Vaporizer vape pens are the newest and most removed installment of tobacco use. No longer is the smell of tobacco lingering in clothes, as the fruity flavors of vape pens are almost encouraged to replace cigarettes. Vape pens got their start in the early 2000s and would skyrocket into major brands like Juul and Enjoy. Now Juul, as most people know, is a very popular brand and controls 75% of the smoking market and says it's a replacement for cigarette use. Juul has gone against the tide and made a generation that was not statistically thought to be addicted to nicotine be just that. Health problems related to nicotine have been clear since the 1970s. Because of this, the United States government and many other nations moved to restrict and sometimes ban vaping. After 6 teens dying of vaping, President Donald Trump released a statement against vaping, and many other countries followed along. The stock for Juul and many other vape product producers would drop, as reported by the Washington Post, and many other vaping products would release statements of how they are not sure if their product would be on shelves within the next 5 years. This turnaround on the feelings toward vaping products may signify an end to tobacco products. But with centuries of people using the product and the industry of vaping being such a moneymaker, there may not be a chance to do so. From the Native Americans and Europeans using it as a medicinal remedy to the heavy cigarette use of the 50s, in the modern day with Juul being a cultural icon for teens, tobacco products have always been around. And if nothing changes, tobacco products will also be a part of our daily lives and could lead to deadly diseases They already kill hundreds of thousands a day.
Thank you.